All right, so we are back with the third week in the books here, and let me tell you right now, I think there's some exciting stuff going on this year. Fun's fun, but who needs it? Off to a great start after having, I think, possibly the worst team or the second worst team in the whole league, getting out to a 3-0 start in a division that's not really that strong. Looking pretty exciting for him. After winning the league last year, it could just be a lot of fun. Beating up on Dillon Panthers, probably the best team in the league. He's going to be heading to 1-2. Some crazy stuff's been going on in this league, got to say. Just some surprising results and just really hard to predict situations. It's just kind of ridiculous. So there you go. Let's take a look real quick. We got Fun's Fun. He's taking that over from Dillon Panthers. Moving on to the next one. Now this one, oh man, this is a brutal situation here. Out of Luck gets the win, and what's he do it on the back of? The tight end he just got from, you got it right, from Elementary, my dear Watson. Now this is a rough situation for Elementary because he's been scoring a lot of points, and I think he's got the most points in that division. But he's in 0-3. He's going to be the only 0-3 team after this week. If you told me he had the most points in that division, I would have him pegged to win the league because that division looks strong. But I tell you what, he has not been winning his games. Now, he's got a great team, I think, here. He did play Carlos Hyde like a savage person instead of Philip Lindsay, which, I mean, that's pretty unforgivable. Just a real shade thrown Philip Lindsay's way there. And then he shipped that Waller straight over to Out of Luck, and just as Jared Cook puts up an egg for him in this game. Just a rough situation there. His wide receivers aren't really going off, especially not Adams. Man, that expensive player right there has been only pedestrian so far, but he's had some tough matchups, so hopefully he'll recover. Now, one bright and shining piece of light for him is that Saquon Barkley out for at least 4 weeks, probably looking more like on the 8-week end, I think. So that could be a nice thing for him. And also, I mentioned previously, Dillon Panthers going to 1-2. So even though he'll be behind, he could recover here. I actually think, in the first few weeks, he's looked like one of the better teams, even though he's had the bad matchups. And then Out of Luck, interesting situation here. Let's say you could start the season 3-0, but you lose your best player for 8 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 5 or 6 weeks. Is that something you'd sign up for? I'm not sure it's something that I would sign up for, is the thing. And so I'm curious as to how he'll finish the season out. We'll have to see. He's got some good players on his team. Now, James Conner has not looked as amazing as we might have thought previously, but Carrion seems to be moving up, and he does have some good keep value, it looks like, on his bench there, as well as Kirk. So hopefully things will work out okay for him, though I'm sure everybody would be excited to see him and Josh, and probably myself as well, losing a bunch since perennially we've been the ones dominating this particular league. Now let's take a look at Papa Giorgio fielding a full roster. Everybody's proud of him. Exciting. He still managed to put up an egg even with the full roster, but really great job just putting the hurt on Moneyschmakers. After putting up the highest point total in week 1, Moneyschmakers has put up the back-to-back lowest totals 2 weeks in a row, just falling apart. Chris Carson, Leonard Fournette don't know about the end zone. They just cannot get to the end zone. Carson seems to give the ball to the other team often. That's a rough situation. That's pretty rough for me as well. I got Carson in a bunch of leagues. So, not great situation here. This game right here is going to put Papa Giorgio at 1-2, Moneyschmakers at 1-2, and like I was talking about before, Fun's Fun is going to be 3-0 atop the division alone. Similar situation with Out of Luck, going to be 3-0 atop the division with the 0-3 Elementary and the 1-2 Dillon Panthers. Now I will say though, those teams are very good, and I would be afraid in that division still. Those teams are very good, and having losing Barkley, that was unfortunate for him as well. Now, can't spell team without tight end. This is a team that's putting up much more competition than I was expecting. I'll tell you what, I did not have them pegged high. I had them like my team down in the dumps, but they've been putting up the competition. Now, they have not won but one game, but they have still been competing every week. It's been powerful. Now, Kelsey's been good every week, but he hasn't scored any touchdowns yet. He's gotten a lot of yards every week, but hopefully he'll turn that around soon. we're going to switch to this. Just kidding. That's probably enough of that southern accent. I think I'm burned out on that. So anyways, for the rest of this, we're gonna be going with the crisp voice. Now Matt Ryan is a garbage time king this year. He has been bad in every game and has been a champion of garbage time. 22 fantasy points here. Matt Breida, sure. His team has been all right. It's been okay. We got Richard Rocket here going off with 41 to Wilson, which I'm sure, locked that matchup up pretty nastily. Hawkinson, not as exciting as we might have thought, and we heard a lot of smack talk come in my direction after week 1. Now we've got Njoku, who's on IR, and Hawkinson's, who's put up 2 terrible weeks and 1 very good one. And so if you were curious as to my tight end assessment previously, here you go. There's your tight ends. Enjoy. He's going to move to 2-1, though. He looks like a pretty solid team, has a decent chance of winning his division. I believe he's in the same division with Can't Spell team without tight end and SoFlo Ragatrons, who got their first win this week. Let's take a look at a team has no name. Going to be moving to 2-1. They were able to defeat Bizarro Stormy, not regular Stormy. Let's look. So Aaron Rodgers has been bad 3 weeks in a row now, but he's played against good defenses, so maybe he's going to be able to turn that around. McCaffrey got back on track this week with 24 points. David Johnson's looked good through most of the games. He got a little bit of tweak to his wrist last week, and he was only put up 7, but he still scored, and then he's been good the other 2 weeks, I think. Mark Ingram going off in this one. But taking a look down these rosters, we got a bunch of inactives on Bizarro Stormy's team, and one interesting thing that's going to be happening here is that these 2 teams are going to 2-1, and I think, let's see, oh no, whatever happened to Michael Vick's going to be going to 1-2, so those 2 teams are going to be sitting atop that division there. Let's really quickly recap what's going on there after we take a look at this matchup here. Now, SoFlo did not get the switch in. This is not Darnell Williams. This is Damian Williams. Did not get the switch in time for the game, and it didn't matter. The Bears defense went off for 21 points. I mean, pretty nice Bears defense there. And that's a standard scoring. Didn't even have any help from inflated defensive points at all. Just 21 on a standard scoring league. Pretty impressive. Might should have started Brady, but that's the situation. Scantling on Harrison's bench for 15 would have been better than any of his wide receivers, especially Henderson. So we'll see if he starts him next week instead, although Anderson's probably going to be better here as Darnold's coming back from mono. He's been making out with too many people. Let's take a look at how the divisions are going to be stacking up. We're going to have Out of Luck at 3-0. We're going to have the Dillon Panthers at 1-2 and Elementary at 0-3. Now, I still think this division's up in the air, especially with the injury to Barkley. I think anybody could win this division now. It's very interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch. Definitely right now, I would not have them pegged as a division that's going to have. I thought, going into the season, it's possible all 3 teams could come from there. It's unlikely, but possible. Now I think it's going to be a little surprising if 2 do, and I think there's no way that 3 will. So it should be interesting here, though. If you look at this situation here, he already, Elementary had 186 points. I don't think, it was only a 7-point differential here, so he's still going to have the most points for in this division. And, he just has a huge pile of points against 244. It's got to be the most in the league. Yeah, it's the most in the league by a ton. So, maybe he'll recover. We'll see. I'm sure everybody will be rooting for him, considering the people that he's against in that league are the teams that win the most. So let's take a look here. Fun's fun, but who needs it? It doesn't matter how bad of a team I draft in this league. Somehow I can just still compete. It doesn't matter. I don't have to play well. Just magical things happen, and then my team wins. I'm sure I'm going to come down to earth pretty soon here, but every week you win, you start to think, man, maybe my team is not as bad as I think, but it obviously is. It's terrible. So Money Schmakers and Papa Giorgio both going to be 1-2, so possibly competing shortly after. Maybe I still feel like one of them is. I feel like I'm not likely to win the division still, so we'll see what's going to happen. All right, so Richter's going to move to 2-1 along with Can't Spell and Slowful are going to be at 1-2 apiece. So this is a close division here with Richter Rocket leading it. Richter, I think. Richter? Go ahead and verify that for me, Kaysen. Like this video if give me some thumbs and a heart if it's Richter. I listened to the thing. I listened to the thing you posted, but I just don't remember. All right, so taking a look here, we got Bizarro Stormy going to be at 2-1, along with Team Has No Name, and then whatever happened to Michael Vick's going to be 1-2. I think this is the best division in the league right now. It also houses the only 2-1 team that's not a division leader, and so that's going to be one of these guys, Bizarro Stormy, a team with no name. If we went to the playoffs today, we would have Bizarro Stormy, a team with no name. We'd have Richter Rocket. We'd have Fun's Fun, Out of Luck, and I'm not sure who our last one would be, but whoever it is 1-2, and 1-2 is not going to be good enough to make it at the end. I think you're going to need to get 7 wins at least in this league. You're probably going to need 8 to get into the playoffs, so maybe 7 might do it. I'm not sure. Good luck, everybody, going into the next week. I guess we can take a look at the matchups really quickly there. I get to play Out of Luck next week. Should be interesting. I'll get to play him without Saquon Barkley, which looks like he's already benched Barkley. He understands the situation there. I hope I get Singletary back for next week, although I guess I'm not going to start Singletary or Gore against New England. I guess I'm going to play Eckler and I guess Mixon. So, all right, so that's going to be the situation there. It should be an interesting. This could be an important matchup. The 2 3-0 teams going up against each other. Kicking around who's going to be the 1 seed. Moneymakers and Dillon Panthers. This is going to be interesting. We got Le'Veon Bell and Kittle on bye. Maybe Moneymaker can take this away and bury Dillon Panthers at 1-3. That could happen with the double bye there. Moneymaker could win this one, putting him at 2-2, which is, you need to move up in that division to have a chance. You're going to have to win some games, even though your roster does look like possibly the strongest one in the division, Moneymakers. All right, so Elementary, My Dear Watson, Papa Giorgio, 49ers, D's on bye. This could be interesting here. I would expect Elementary, My Dear Watson's going to climb out of this hole that he's gotten himself into. I think he's got a good roster. He's a pretty good player. I think he'll climb out of it. So, yeah, hopefully he will. Let's take a look at Can't Spell Team Without Tight End and Bizarro Stormy. Bizarro Stormy projected to win big time. We've got the Niners on bye there with Breida and Goodwin. But he's got some. He can probably play Jordan Howard or Latavius Murray. I guess probably, oh, man, I hate both those matchups. Well, maybe he'll pick somebody up, or maybe he'll just play one of those guys. Who knows? And at wide receiver, he's got multiple inactive guys at wide receiver. I guess he could play Goody, but I don't know. All right, let's take a look at Team Has No Name and SoFlo Ragatrons. So I'm going to expect that SoFlo is going to probably move Williams to the bench. I don't know who he'll start, or maybe he'll pick somebody up. Maybe Melvin Gordon will sign in the middle of the week. Who knows what's going on? And we'll see what's going to happen there. No buys on Team Has No Name side. They both could use this win. The expectation for this team, a Team Has No Name, was really high. And even at 2-1, I feel like the expectation was higher than that. I would have projected her to go 3-0, and then the combination of Dillon Panthers and Out of Luck to be 5-1 since they played each other once. Let's take a look at whatever happened to Michael Vick and Richter Rocket. Richter Rocket nailed it. This is an important game for both these teams. Whatever happened to Michael Vick needs to stay in the race for this division, and then Kaysen needs to kind of assert his dominance. Richter Rocket's going to need to get some wins to make sure that he doesn't let Can't Spell Team Without Tight End or SoFlo Ragatrons catch up. Because if they just get one win, they're only a game back. Both of his divisional opponents are only a game back, and whatever happened to Mike Vick is only one game back from his division as well. So could be an interesting matchup there. Definitely some interesting matchups coming up this week. I think this actually houses some of the most interesting matchups we've had the whole time, even though there are not divisional matchups going on this week. Still some very interesting ones, some teams that need wins. This situation, we've got the 2 3-0 teams facing off, the only 2 3-0 teams in the league. We've got Money Schmakers playing against Dillon Panthers. Money Schmakers needs the win to have a shot to stay in contention for the division, I think, because going to 1-3 is going to be bad for him. And then we've got Dylan Panthers, who, he really could want the win too. He doesn't want to go to 1-3 either, even though he has that crazy roster. He's got to win games with the roster. Watson needs the win really bad. He has probably one of the top 2 or 3 teams, I think, if you just were to look at the points for and look at the weekly spread and not look at the matchups and not look at the fact that he lost 3 times. You'd think his team was one of the best teams in the league. Papa Giorgio could use the win too. As you move to 1-2 now, going to 2-2 is a big deal, especially with a team like mine leading that division where, I really don't expect it to last much longer. Who knows when Melvin Gordon's going to come back and ruin all of Eckler's value as well. Here we've got can't spell team without tight end and Bizarro Stormy. Both these teams need it too. Bizarro Stormy wants to try to stay atop that division, and the team has no name. Same thing. Both these guys, both the teams from the Big Tough Targets division, Bizarro Stormy and Team Has No Name, with matchups that look like they're winnable, but you never know. We've seen a lot of matchups go the way that were not projected, even when they're projected pretty heavily one direction in this league. And then here we've got what's probably the closest game in the league. This one right here, and maybe Fun's Fun, since Out of Luck is short their best player. But this is going to be interesting, right? These two teams really could both use this win big time. Both of them wanting to move into or hold on to first in their division. So very interesting, surely, and exciting to have football back, and excited for what's going to happen next week. I'll check in with you guys again then.